Dave knows how.
All right, welcome back to the channel. I want to do a little video. I've read over, last few years, different places across the internet where people are asking about a phenomenon with the Kubota. Typically it's the L series tractor, where the fuel gauge is not really accurate. And so I thought maybe I'd do a little video and explain why. So in this illustration, you see that we have a fuel tank, and you notice it's kind of shaped funny. It's kind of shaped like a capital L turned sideways. And that is how the fuel tank in the Kubota L series tractors are made. Now what this means is at the top of that fuel tank, you've got a wide area as indicated by the purple lines showing the wide area. So, a gallon worth of fuel spread out over that wide area is not going to be as deep as opposed to a gallon worth of fuel at the bottom of the tank, where we have the narrow area labeled with green writing and two green arrows. A gallon of fuel down there is going to take up more height in the fuel tank than a gallon of fuel would at the top of the fuel tank. And hopefully I'm explaining that in a way that's fairly easy to understand. Now the yellow block we've got up there indicates the fuel gauge, and this is actually the part of the fuel gauge that's inside the fuel tank that measures where the fuel is at. And it just goes from empty, quarter, half, three-quarter, full tank. And as you'll notice how it's positioned in the tank, it doesn't cover the complete height of the tank. It only covers a certain portion of the tank. So, if you've got a 10-gallon tank like what this is, and it's slammed full, it's going to take a long time for that gauge to drop down below the full mark. Subsequently, it's going to take a long time for it to go from three-quarter tank to a half a tank, especially compared to when you get down to a quarter of a tank. If you'll notice, a quarter of a tank is in line with the bottom edge of the widest part of the tank. Anything below that, and you're into the narrow part of the tank. So the fuel level is going to drop faster from a quarter tank down because it's a narrow area, and nothing's going to change as far as how fast your tractor burns a gallon of fuel. So, it's going to go from a quarter tank to empty fairly quick compared to going from three-quarters of a tank to a half a tank, or from a half a tank to a quarter of a tank. A lot of times when it gets to empty, the tank is really not empty. The tank's still got 3, 4, 5 gallons in the tank. Now, that's not all of the L series tractors, so don't think that you can just run it down on empty forever, because it's going to drop fast once it gets down to that quarter tank or empty it's going to drop really super fast because that is a very narrow portion of the fuel tank. And so it's going to drop pretty quick. But anyway, this is probably an exaggerated example of what's going on with your fuel gauge. It's not that the fuel gauge is broke or that it's not working properly. It's working. It's just not a really accurate representation of what's in the tank. It's just giving you a general idea of what's in the tank. Kubota probably could have done a better job, but with the shape of this tank like it is, having a wide area at the top and a narrow area at the bottom, even if the overall spectrum of from empty to full was longer and went all the way to the bottom of the tank, you're still going to have a phenomenon where from full down to where the tank narrows, the fuel gauge is going to drop a lot slower than it's going to drop compared to when it's at the top of the narrowest part of the tank all the way down till the tank itself is completely empty. Anyway, hopefully I've explained that so that it's easy to understand. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to make a quick video and share that information so that some of you guys that was questioning why this is going on with your fuel gauge, you'll have a better idea as to what's going on. You know, mine, I've never let mine get to empty. I've let mine get down to a quarter tank, and then generally I, put fuel in it. And typically, I believe when mine's on a quarter tank, it will hold about 8 gallons. We'll fill it up, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know exactly what size tank mine is, but it's at least a 10-gallon tank. It may be a little bit bigger than a 10-gallon tank, but anyway, the diagram just gives you an idea of what's going on and kind of sheds a little light on the design of the tank and how it's made. And if you have any doubts about this, if you pull your cap off of your fuel cap, pull the fuel cap off, take a flashlight, and shine it down in there, and you'll see exactly how that tank is shaped. And if you take a ruler and you drop it straight down in that tank from the fuel cap, you will hit a little ledge. And then if you kind of bend the tape and go closer to the steering wheel, you'll notice that the tape measure goes on down in there considerably deeper because it goes down into that narrow area. So anyway, the only reason I found this out was because I dropped something in my fuel tank and I had to fish it out. And when I had to fish it out, I discovered that this tank is made this way. And fortunately, I was able to fish out what I dropped in there. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was something dropped in there off of a container that I was filling it with fuel, and something dropped off the fuel can, went down in the fuel tank, and I had to fish it out. So this is the only reason why I discovered this, and I just thought I would share it. So anyway, hope you guys are having a great weekend. Appreciate everybody that subscribes to my channel. Take care. Be blessed.
Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.